therapy session for many Yankee fans that tune into our show. So let's just start with a nice and simple, how you doing and what is wrong with the Bronx Bombers right now?
Yeah, if it's a therapy session, I'm not sure that I have much to offer in the way of silver lining. I guess there's a few things, but they're an unmitigated mess right now. We can just start there.
Elaborate for us on what you're seeing that is the biggest concern with the ball club. As I know, Judge is making his way back. We'll see what he looks like, but I mean, let's start with what stands out on a national level: sloppy play. You watch them every day. You cover this team every day. Do you feel that when you're seeing this team? Because sometimes statistically, I think this weekend it was pointed out how they don't run into that many outs on the bases compared to other teams. And I'm like, well, they're either getting a ton of attention or the ones that they are running into are really glaring and costing them.
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, and the Yankees love to quote their internal numbers to you, and so they'll tell you that their internal numbers that they're really not that bad when it comes to some of that stuff. But I always feel with so many of those numbers, you can make them do for you exactly what you want them to do. I remember a few years ago when they had Isaiah Connor-Falefa at shortstop, and he was just having a terrible year there, and it would be the first one to tell you that he wasn't very good. And the Yankees kept telling us about their internal numbers showing that he was a top 5, top 10 shortstop in the league. And I remember talking to analytics people with other teams, and they said, yeah, we find that laughable. That's certainly not what our numbers show. But I do feel the Yankees, excel in quoting their own numbers. They don't show us those numbers, but say, basically don't believe your lying eyes. Look, I think we can almost start with what Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez said over the weekend on the Fox pregame show before the Speedway Classic about, the very little accountability, sloppiness, and you've seen it repeatedly. And it didn't start in the fifth inning, which of last year's Game 5 of the World Series. We saw that disastrous inning when the Yankees coughed up the 5-0 lead. But look, bottom line on this is the Yankees have been a poor fundamental team for a number of years now. And this is an organizational problem. It's not an Aaron Boone problem. And I've talked to scouts that are assigned to the Yankees minor league system for years about this. And they've talked about how from the bottom levels all the way up through AAA, fundamentals are not stressed. It's all about exit velocity, spin rate, drive line, all of the things that have become a big part of the sport in the last decade. And there's a place for all of that. But what you're seeing is there's not an emphasis on actually playing the game well. Playing the game instinctually, and you can't measure that stuff, but you know it when you see it or when you don't see it. And I still remember when Didi Gregorius, player you guys are very familiar with, when he rehabbed for a couple of weeks back in 2019 in the minor leagues, coming back for an injury, and he came back to the big league clubhouse and told several of his teammates, quote, "You wouldn't believe some of the shit going on in our minor leagues." And he was talking about what I'm talking about, where all of the emphasis was on, again, exit velocity, hitting home runs, spin rate for pitchers, et cetera. And there wasn't a lot getting done in terms of making sure that guys actually play the game in a competent way. So I don't know why people are suddenly shocked there's gambling going on in the casino, if you will, when you see at the big league level, it's the exact same thing. But again, Aaron Boone is the face man for a lot of this in terms of the slings and arrows coming from the fan base and a lot of the media. But I'm telling you, this is a top to bottom organizational issue, and it has been for a while now.
I love everything about, well, I don't love it because you want them to win. We all want them to win, but you've hit pretty much everything right on the head there of all the question I had. But the other question I had, you're in the clubhouse pretty much every day. How is it in there? I mean, is there people, is it one side here, one side there? I mean, there's got to be some dissension in there. Something's going on because they don't look like they're loving the game of baseball as much. And when you're in the clubhouse, you've got to have that love, that energy. Is there anything going on in that clubhouse where you're like, same day, here they go again, like nobody seems to be, either rooting for each other or wanting to be around each other?
No, I mean, I think Todd, it's a relatively close, group, and I spend as much time as I can in the clubhouse, just talking to guys, not usually with a notebook or a recorder, but just talking about a variety of things. Sometimes baseball, a lot of times not baseball related, but it's a professional clubhouse, and I can tell you that the preparation is the exact same. The desire to win is the exact same as it was when this team in the middle of June had the second best record in the American League. I haven't picked up on any dissension or anything like that, but I don't think there's any question that the way things have been going, and this period of poor play has been going on for nearly 2 months now, that it is wearing on guys somewhat, and I believe that they're feeling the pressure. And you guys put on the pinstripes, and you can speak to this certainly better than I can. Reggie Jackson, legendary Yankee, always had a quote that the pinstripes are heavy. And he talked about not everybody can handle the pressure that comes with putting on a Yankee uniform, and they can excel elsewhere, but then they come here and it's a little bit more difficult because every single game gets treated, to quote Brian Cashman, the longtime general manager, every game is a one-game season based on the way that's treated by the media and the fan base, and not every player can handle that. We saw it with Sonny Gray when he was here. He's been an all-star, I think, at every stop he's been other than New York. We saw the disastrous Joey Gallo trade from a few years ago. And we don't know what the new guys exactly how they're going to handle it. It's too small of a sample size. But in terms of the clubhouse and the professionalism and the preparation and guys getting along, the chemistry is fine in the clubhouse, and it's not translating to the field the way that it was the first 2.5 months of the season, obviously.
Okay, Eric, this is me ripping up my questions. Just throw those out the chain because you said some things that worried me, and I tweeted this the other day. It's beautiful to start off how the Yankees started off hot. This is why it's so imperative to start off really, really well. But you said something that kind of bothers me or worries me. Let me say, when you say the routine hasn't changed. I was around Dave Winfield in San Diego, and one thing that he really always talked to me about as a player was you can't be afraid to try something different. Well, the Yankees have not played good baseball for the past few months, not consistent quality baseball. Do you, in your opinion, or is there anything that they're changing in the routine prior to the game? Because something has to change. You can't just continue to play the same way and then continue to prepare the same way and expect to get different results. So I'm curious on your end, as you watch and follow these guys, do you think there's something that they need to concentrate more on? And is there, or also too, are the Yankees just who they're showing us that they are right now? Because you get to a certain point in the season where you are who you are, I believe.
Well, that's kind of a multi-layered question, Cameron. I let me turn that around. The first part of your question to you, both you and Todd, as former big leaguers. What is the line? We all know about the grind of the 162 game season. You guys obviously went through it for a very long time in the big leagues. When things aren't going well, what is the point where you suddenly change things up, and what are those things?
Yeah, for me, I'll answer it, Todd. I'll go first. For me, when I'm watching the games, I think guys, and we talked about Milwaukee Brewers, guys not understanding who they are, right? We complain about Anthony Volpe, and you're gonna struggle at times on defense, but offensively, and I watch him, and I watch Jazz, and I watch some of these guys that should be table setters. It's the same swing. It's a feast or famine swing. It's swinging for the fence, whether you're at home or you're on the road, where it's like, the old school back through the middle, low line drive. Reggie Jackson told me, hey, when I first came to the New York Yankees, hey, Cam, collect your hits. Like, get your hits first. Then once you start feeling good, then you can do a little bit more. For me, it's just what kind of conversations are they having with guys like Jazz, who I know you have 17, 18 homers, but you need to be getting on base. You need to be stealing. Jason Dominguez, force the issue. Let's create some havoc on the bases. For me, those would be things. And then that starts in BP. And Ty can follow up off this. Some of those guys, hey, let's shorten up. I watch Aaron Judge and not Mike Stanton. I still call him Big Mike. Giancarlo Stanton. I watch these guys hit hard ground balls and line drives early in BP rounds. They're not trying to hit homers. So, understanding who you are at the big league level is important. And I think, that's a part of the changes that need to be made.
It's summertime, it's bathing suit time, and it's time to get a better bathing suit liner. It's 2025, Kratz. I would like to feel more comfortable, and I would like to thank Fair Harbor for doing that.
It's super easy. Get the Fair Harbor Breeze Knit liner in your shorts. You can go play football on the beach. You can play paddleball. And you don't got to worry about that crappy liner that other bathing suits have.
It is so comfortable. You got to check it out. I'm telling you, it's like butter, baby. You got to check out the Fair Harbor, not only bathing suits, but they carry a full line of casual clothing, shorts, shirts, hoodies. Go to the website, fairharborclothing.com/foul, and use code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. That's fair, HARBOR clothing.com/foul for 20% off your first purchase. And make sure that you use the FT promo code so that they know we sent you and you get the discount, FOUL.
What kind of role are you? What role player are you? I think that's the biggest adjustment some guys got to make. They come up there thinking, oh, I got to be somebody different. No, if you be you and control your controls, you're going to be just fine. If you're a leadoff guy, get on base. If you're one of those guys that are in the 3 to 7 hole, time to bop some RBIs. And forget about the paperwork in the TV. What is he throwing? Hey, 2-seamers running in a little bit, slider away. Like, you don't need any more else than that. Percentages, throw them out the window. When you're struggling, come together as a unit and communicate. I do see the Yankees doing that a lot, but at the same time, how much are they taking that intake in and bringing it to the field?
Cameron, to add on to that, I guess, a little bit when you talk about changing things up, one of the things that drives me nuts in this sport, and actually all professional sports, you've heard this phrase more and more over the years, and the Yankees certainly will make you nauseous with it, is they talk about, well, the process is sound. And if it's not working, then you got to change the process. But the Yankees internally in the organization, and this is not one of my anti-analytics screeds, and I get so tired of arguing with people in the Yankees front office about this, where they say, well, when you criticize it, you're just anti-analytics. And I'm like, well, some of my best sources are actually analytics guys with other teams. So I'm not anti-analytics by any stretch, but sometimes you have to look inward and say and evaluate everything and say, what we're doing is not working. It's not translating to the big league level. Maybe we need to simplify some things. Maybe we don't need to constantly have the iPads out and constantly looking at, all of the metric numbers. I had one person in the organization I was talking to a couple of days ago, and he said, we're just the StatCast kings. That seems to be all that we that we care about. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what the players is first and foremost in their mind, but if you come up through the minor league system with that, then maybe that's what you think is most important. I remember talking to a scout as a Yankees minor league system from another team about 2 weeks ago, and he had seen the system from the lower level, low A ball all the way up to AAA. And he said, it drives me crazy. He goes, you watch batting practice. He said, it's like softball batting practice. It's just uppercut, swing as hard as you can, and see how many balls go over the fence. Well, that's kind of not what you guys are describing in terms of how big leaguers should prepare to hit. And you mentioned Judge and you mentioned Stanton, and they have their own routines, and those are routines that have been honed over many years in the major leagues. I just think that organizationally, and I said this 2 years ago when they went 82-80 and missed the playoffs, and the season just careened into a ditch in the second half, is that when that season ended, that they needed to internally as an organization ask themselves some very difficult questions about their methodology, and in their minds what they believe is unassailable methodology, because nobody's more sensitive than the analytics guys when you criticize them. I can tell you that from firsthand experience over the years. The pro scouts, they've got to sign their names to all of their reports, and they have to live with that, good or bad. The analytics guys, I think, a lot of times hide behind their computers, and they say, well, the process is there. It should have worked out, and if it didn't work out, it's on somebody else, but it's not on us. That's a whole nother, I guess, tangent there. But Cameron, your second question, is this who they are? I mean, it's been a Jekyll and Hyde season. I mean, they were 17 games over 500 after they swept the Royals on June 12th in Kansas City. And then since then, they went into Fenway Park, got swept by the Red Sox, and they've been, I think it's now 28 out of 46 games since then that they've lost. So, when they built the record to 17 games over 500, they had one of the best starting rotations in the game. They had one of the best bullpens, and their offense was leading in pretty much every category. And almost none of those things have been the case the last almost 2 months now. And then you throw in the consistent sloppy play, bad base running, etc., mental brain freezes, physical mistakes, all of the above, and you get where they are. So who are they exactly? I think that's who they are. And when you look at the September schedule, where they get a healthy dose of a couple of series against the Orioles, the Twins, who, since 2002, I think they've won 75 or 80% of their games against the Twins. And that's actually not being a hyperbole. That's pretty accurate. And the White Sox are thrown in there. This team certainly has the capabilities of getting hot in September, but they have not shown any indications that they're capable of doing that.
Last question for me, Jake Bird, 2 innings, 7 runs, is the guy they were looking for important innings coming in here, and it just didn't have it coming from Colorado. Talk a little about that, and just another one to write off right now. He's got to find himself.
Yeah, and I don't know Jake well, and this is not a shot against him by any stretch of the imagination, but as you guys know, there were probably 20 teams looking for bullpen help before the trade deadline. The Yankees certainly were pretty high on that list. And talking to scouts from other teams that were looking for bullpen help and that had scouted Jake Bird, there was a lot of concern from those guys that Bird had been basically run into the ground first few months in Colorado. And you look at it, he had 45 appearances with the Rockies at the time that the Yankees traded for him. And he had a really bad July, which obviously is the time leading up to the trade deadline. And there were quite a few teams that backed off of him for that reason. And I suspect, it's just a suspicion, because I've seen this with the Yankees and trade deadline acquisitions in the past. Joey Gallo is a good example where, their analytics wings decided, well, we'll fix them. We've got all the answers. We've got our pitching lab, and nobody likes to pat themselves on the back more for being cutting edge than the Yankees do, and that they ignored basically the fact that there were some concerns industry wide about Bird. Not that he was injured or anything like that, but just basically that he might have been overused a bit with Colorado, and his numbers did show that in July with the Rockies before the deadline. I think he had 5 ERA or something like that in the month of July before the trade. So look, I mean, he certainly is a capable guy. He has shown that before. Maybe he gets himself right in AAA. That move was made because Mark Leiter Jr. is coming off the IL before tonight's game. So there's still a decent chance that we see Bird at some point back here in the big leagues. But again, in the industry, because there were so many teams looking for relievers, that's one thing that I heard from scouts from other teams about Bird, that there was just a little bit of worry that maybe he had been overly taxed by the Rockies before the deadline.